Hey guys, so if you are new here, my name is Maria. I have two girls, a 2-year-old and a 3-month-old now. I do mostly vlogs, a bunch of, mom lifestyle videos. So if you would like to join my family, I would really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. Now, let's get on to the story time. Hey you guys, welcome to my channel. So today's setup is a little bit different. I've never filmed in this room. This is my bedroom. But I decided I kind of wanted to be cozy and as comfortable as possible because, as you can see with the title of this video, I have not been doing so well. This is the story on how my simple hernia surgery turned into a life-threatening nightmare. On October 2nd, I went in for my hernia surgery. It was only an hour long. Simple, fast. I felt great when I woke up. That's what I feared the most, was that I would feel like crap and that I would be throwing up, because every time I have a surgery, I always throw up from the anesthesia. Never fails. But this time was different. Everything went so smooth. I felt wonderful for 2 days and I was like, this is amazing. Wow, this is just not what I expected. I even got I think I got some videos uploaded at that time. I worked on videos, was editing, and yeah, of course I was like a little tender, but I was not in any pain really. Day 3 came and the pain kind of started getting a little bit worse, and I had severe chills and I was getting a fever and I was just sweating and I couldn't keep my temperature normal. They prescribed me Percocets. I don't like those kind of drugs. I don't like not being in control of my body. I just don't like that stuff. So I decided to take Tylenol. They told me to take Tylenol as needed. I know that you can take Tylenol every 4 hours. I didn't take the Percocets. I actually didn't even go pick them up from the pharmacy because I knew I was not going to take the Percocets. I was taking Tylenol because of my fever. I was getting sick because right before I went into surgery, the day before, both of my kids got really sick. They had like a fever and they had cold symptoms, and that's what I was getting. So I assumed I was sick, on top of having my surgery and those symptoms. I decided to take flu medicine. Wasn't getting any better. I was sleeping all day, all night, and I figured it was probably because of the flu medicine I just took. I did only take it twice, and I know you don't get better that fast, but I wasn't getting any better. If anything, I was getting worse. 1 week goes by, or I was like, all right, something's not right. I'm just getting worse and worse every single day. So I called my doctor and they were like, why don't you come in, let's check you out and just see what's going on. I went to the doctor's and he said my incision looked wonderful. He doesn't see any sign of infection. It wasn't even like bleeding or anything, and maybe that should have been a sign to me that nothing was coming out at all. I was still very, very swollen, and he was concerned with that, on why I was still like really swollen, and it was like really hard around the area still, which is normal after surgery. He said it should have been getting better and maybe I was just slower with recovering than everybody else. He sent me on my way, said I was fine. He doesn't think anything was gonna happen and I was just slower moving with recovering. 2 days go by. Still feeling like crap, and my fever finally broke. So I was like, okay, so I should definitely be getting better now. Another 2 days go by. I just can't do it anymore. I was going to my parents' house to get as much help as I needed with the kids because I have a newborn and a 2-year-old on top of that. Very difficult for me, this whole thing, to not be able to do that because I was so weak. And you can't lift, which I knew that, but it was like all in my head and I was just not feeling right. I started getting like where my mind, like my brain was just getting foggy, and I started to not realize what was going on around me. I know that sounds like really weird. I don't know how to explain it, but it was like kind of like a memory loss. My memory started like fading, and it's when that happened that just freaks me out, because from experience my father had really bad sepsis, and I remember that with him, just the moment he forgot who I was killed me. Sorry. Because it just takes over your body. And I was so scared when this was happening because I didn't want to forget my kids, so I didn't want it to get to that point. So I said enough is enough. I'm going to call my doctor up, and I explained to them what was going on, and they thought I was going through sepsis. I went to urgent care because they said that you should go to urgent care first, because then they will give you a recommendation to go to the ER and they'll take you in faster. So I went to urgent care. She looked at my incision, because at this point now it started gushing blood, my incision. Before it was doing nothing, and now it was just releasing so much. So, and it just really hurt to touch. It was very, very sensitive, my entire stomach. So she looked at it and she goes, you know exactly where you're going. You're going to the ER because I think you have sepsis. So the ER is right next to urgent care. I drove right there. It was like 50 feet. And I am not at the same hospital I got my operation at, because I was actually at my parents' house so they could help me out with my kids, and they just live in a different state. This is where it gets confusing. So this is where it got confusing with the doctors, because I didn't have the operation in this state, I didn't have it in this hospital, and they just didn't know what was going on. They took me in right away. I think I waited a total of like 2 minutes in the ER, which is crazy because every time I've been to the ER I've waited hours, probably because my symptoms weren't that serious. I don't know, but they took me in, they took my blood work right away, hooked me up to get hydrated, because on top of it I was dehydrated because I was so sick. I couldn't take anything down. I lost my appetite. I couldn't drink anything. It was seriously the worst thing I've ever been through, not gonna lie. I'd rather give birth over and over again than go through this. Really fast with me on everything. They took me in for a CAT scan with me being there, and my blood work came back pretty fast because they just wanted to be on top of me, because sepsis will take over your body so fast, and then it starts affecting your organs, so they wanted to make sure that it was not sepsis. Well, my blood work came back and it said I had an infection. It was kind of a relief in a way, but at the same time I was freaking out. It was a relief because I knew I wasn't crazy. Like I knew something else was wrong other than my surgery part of being in pain. I said it to the doctor that I think I had an infection, and he thought I was fine, which how could he really know? You get the CAT scan results back and they could see that the infection is behind the wall of where I had my hernia operation. There was an abscess there. They found exactly where it was, which was good news, because that means they knew how to properly fight the infection. But that meant I needed to be admitted to the hospital. That's where I lost my mind, because I have 2 kids at home and a newborn. So I just couldn't believe that I was going to be away from my newborn. I didn't know how long I was going to be in the hospital. The nurse told me probably only for a day, so I could get hydrated again and all of that. They took cultures from me, so that needed time to grow. So it's between 24 and 48 hours to just see how bad the infection was. So I sleep there. I woke up the next morning and I was just so upset that my babies were at home. They were in good hands, but it was just upsetting to me to be just kind of like taken away from my newborn, and I didn't want them in the hospital because she's a newborn. I just didn't want her to get sick or get anything, so I made the decision that I did not want my parents or my husband to bring them to the hospital. So the next day the doctor comes in, probably about 5 of them, and they tell me that I have a bad infection, I need to take time to take care of myself, and I have to stay in the hospital longer than expected. So I lose my mind. I have a little bit of a mental breakdown. I start crying, all of that. So there's a lot of crying involved. They tell me that my infection levels are still rising and I need to stay. They want me to go into surgery to get the abscess or the infection taken out so it doesn't grow or get any bigger. So they send me down for an ultrasound to check up on it because it's already the next day. They want to see if it got bigger, smaller, what, because I was getting rid of a lot of blood, so that could have been the abscess. They weren't sure. So I go get my ultrasound, come back up, and they come in pretty fast with the results, which is when a doctor comes in fast for the hospital, you just already know. It's like bad news. I don't know. So, because usually it takes like hours. So yeah, they come in and they were like, your liver is shutting down. I was like, I'm sorry, what? What? They're like, you need to stay in the hospital. This is news to me. And they're like, yeah, the ER didn't catch it, but your liver levels are so high that we can't let you leave because they just keep rising, and if they keep rising, you're gonna need a liver transplant. Like, it is shutting down. What? I am 25 years old. My liver should not be shutting down. So they come in and they're like, they explain the whole thing to me, and they said it's due to your infection. It started affecting your organs, so it affected my liver. My infection. Asking for Tylenol because, like I said at the beginning of the video, I don't like stuff that makes me loopy. It just doesn't sit well with me. I just ask for Tylenol. I figure that's the safest thing you can take. Well, apparently not. I overdosed on Tylenol. I didn't think that was possible. I was taking it every 4 hours. Sometimes I was only taking it twice a day. I couldn't believe this was happening to me. I was trying to do the right thing by taking Tylenol and not Percocets, and I overdosed on Tylenol. The doctor told me it was only because my infection was starting, that I was just already really weak. My liver would soak up more of medicines, and that's why I technically overdosed, because if I was like healthy and fine, it probably wouldn't have happened. But since I was going into sepsis and all of that, that's why it did it. And I wasn't eating on top of it, so no food was absorbing it. So it was just, I was just a mess. So you know what that means. Since I overdosed on something, they had to start the detox process. It wasn't that bad, but I did throw up, and I swear I was hallucinating. It was a very long process, and when they told me I needed to detox, I was expecting to go home the next day, and like early in the morning, because that's what everybody was telling me. But then they found this in my blood, and they found it on the ultrasound, and the girl was like, no, you're not going home. Not anytime soon. So the detox process was a full 24 hours. 24 hours, and then they had to check me the next day to check on my levels. So it was a full 2 days. Now I was already in there for 2 days. So to hear that I needed to stay an extra 2 days, I lost it. I thought they were going to send me to the psych unit because I had such a mental breakdown. I honestly felt so bad for the girl next to me because I was crying all night. They told me this news probably about like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I cried myself to sleep and then woke up and started crying again. I had headphones in, was blasting music to try to calm myself down, and I just could not calm down because It was just the worst. I've already been poked so many times and tried to get blood taken out of me that my veins were just shot. They could not get a vein. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like so painful. They were digging in me and I got bruises everywhere. I was waiting for the blood test to come back and it didn't. It kept rising. Even after the detox, my liver levels were still rising. So that is bad news. The doctor said, let's just try one more bag of the detox. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So another day I stayed, took more blood work. They weren't rising anymore, but they weren't lowering. They were just staying at a standstill, which is kind of good news, but still kind of not good news. So now we talked and everything, and they at least know it was from the Tylenol and the infection. It's going to work itself out, hopefully, but I from now on need to see a liver specialist every few months to check up, like get blood taken to just check up on my liver levels. And if in a year it doesn't drop, then we're gonna have to talk about like transplants. So this experience really scared me. Now, they were so focused on my like liver that they said they didn't want to put me in through operation to take the abscess out of my stomach because it was too much of a liability because they didn't operate on me. So they didn't want to touch another surgeon's work. How does that even make sense? Taking over my body with an infection? I don't understand that. They wanted to do the surgery and then they found out they're done at that hospital, so now they don't want to. It was just kind of weird to me. Finally was able to go home. They wanted me to stay longer, but they knew how upset I was with not being with my kids, and they sent me home with antibiotics, and now I just have to go see specialists because now my incision part has a growth on it and I need to go see a wound care specialist because it just keeps growing and it's nasty and it hurts and all of that. But I came home, I finished my antibiotics. They took 5 days. They took 5 days to finish. I feel great. I don't feel like that memory loss in my head or all of that, and I don't feel run down. I'm starting to feel healthier. So I think everything is just working itself out and I'm finally getting back to normal. I still can't lift because I'm still not in my 4 to 6 week mark from surgery, but I am able to take care of my kids and I'm just happy I'm home. And that was the worst experience of my life. The doctors were like giving me scares. They kept saying like, you're really, really sick. You need to be in the hospital because it's just an infection will take over your body so fast that you could die. If you didn't come in 2 days earlier, you would have been dead. It's just really scary knowing that I had kids at home and that I could have not have been here any longer if I waited longer to go into the hospital and get medication. So that is my story on my simple hernia surgery turning into an absolute nightmare. It was pretty scary, and this is why I was nervous to go into surgery. I've had a lot of hate comments on how it's just a hernia surgery. I need to not be so nervous and scared. Like, it's a simple surgery. I should be in and out. Yeah, well, guess what? I had sepsis and could have died. And now I need a possible liver transplant. This turned into a nightmare. So any surgery is a risk. So if someone tells you to stop being so dramatic over a surgery, you can tell them where to shove it. I hope you guys enjoyed this story time video. Don't forget to comment down below and hit that subscribe button to join the family. And I hope to see you in my next video. Bye guys.